Hey everyone, this is Amanda Eke, host of the Poet Speaks podcast. Welcome to season 5. I talk to poets from all over the world engaged in spoken word, slam poetry, and oral traditions. And we were named as one of Strategic Media Inc.'s top 5 podcasts by Black creators in February of 2022. Tune in weekly to listen to me and poets talk about performing, oral tradition, and most importantly, they tell me why they need to get their words out. And guess what? If you or your organization wants to be a guest or a sponsor of our podcast, let us know and message us on Instagram and Facebook at the Poet Speaks Podcast. Enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Poet Speaks Podcast, the #1 spoken word poetry podcast in the world. Now, our next guest is a spoken word artist based out of Atlanta by way of Chattanooga, Tennessee. He's an author of his collection of poems entitled Poetry for the Hopefully. He's the curator of his monthly show, Soul Therapy, brand ambassador for Urban Grind Coffee House located in ATL, creator of the Poet's Perspective podcast and blogger, where he's written over 200 articles. Please welcome to the podcast, Justin Patton. Justin, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Tell me, you're coming, where are we talking to you out of right now?
So I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, more specifically Marietta, Georgia, which is just north of the city. So yeah, I've been down here making it happen.
Nice, sweet Georgia, sweet Georgia. Were you born and raised in Georgia?
No, so I was actually born and raised in Tennessee for the most part, but we moved down here like when I was in high school. Then I ended up moving back to Tennessee, and then I moved back down here. So kind of been back and forth throughout my life, but I've been rocking and rolling, down here in Atlanta, Metro Atlanta for a minute now, at least since about 2012.
Cool, cool, cool. So, how was it growing up in a good chunk of your childhood in Tennessee, Chattanooga, Tennessee? I think you're the first person ever from Chattanooga, Tennessee that I've ever had on the show.
Oh, that's what's up. I'm glad to be the first. But Chattanooga was a lot different then. Now it's like built up and there's a lot of tourist attractions. But back then it was more small town vibes. Most of my family's from Tennessee, grandparents, uncles, aunties, and I got a pretty big family. So it was very familiar. And it was like one of those towns where everybody knew each other. And like I said, I have such a big family. Like, I mean, even now I can, when I'm in Chattanooga, like I can be walking in a store or something, and somebody can stop me and be like, "You so and so son," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." Yeah, so it was cool. It was very familiar.
Absolutely. Now, I'm curious. Now, did Chattanooga, Tennessee? Obviously, you're a poet by your profession and by your brand. Does Tennessee, that area, does it have a big poetry scene at all?
It has a poetry scene. I don't want to say it's hard to say big poetry scene because I feel like down here in Atlanta there's a pretty big scene. I've been to some other cities like DC, and let me see where else. I mean, a lot of places around the DMV. Um, you know, I mean, even like Nashville, Chattanooga, not so much, but it has a scene. Just wouldn't call it big.
Yeah, for sure. So let's so as you kind of transgress, you then moved to ATL. Did you move to ATL? Was it parents? They kind of just switching things up. What was the reasoning for y'all moving to ATL eventually?
Yeah, so my dad ended up his job moved us down here, and there was some work opportunities for my mother as well. She's a teacher, so she could kind of make some more money before retirement and all that. So I finished out my last 3 years of high school down here, and then I shot back to Tennessee for college, and then shot back down to Georgia to finish college.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah. So you were moving a lot. Tell us a little bit now, kind of moving on to ATL then. What is the poetry scene like in ATL? I'm sure everyone, I mean, when you think of Atlanta, honestly, I'll be frank, I think strip clubs. Like there's the first thing that comes to my mind, strip clubs and wings.
Yeah,
but,
it's a
but I
lot of
mean,
that. We got that. We definitely got that too.
I'm so curious, for Atlanta poets. I mean, it's such a big community, I'm sure, of the arts. I know a lot of people they move down there to pursue acting, singing, I mean, whatever it may be, a lot of entrepreneurship. Tell me a little bit about the poetry scene out there.
Yeah, so and I let me see. And before I discovered the poetry scene in Atlanta, I didn't. I didn't even really know spoken word was like a thing that was happening here. You know, I got into it like I had always written poetry, but just like watching YouTube videos, like Def Poetry Jam was like my first intro, and I was just like I said, just watching it on YouTube. But that was like my first introduction of like spoken word artists that were really killers. You know, more so like performative spoken word artists rather than like, you know, just kind of poets reading. And so I got with this. One of my friends was a rapper at the time. This was probably like around like 2012. One of my friends was a rapper, and he was working with this entertainment company that would put on like these variety shows. And you know, he wanted me to rap, and I'm like, but I'm not cool enough to be a rapper. It's not my thing. I don't want to. I don't want to talk about like that kind of stuff. Just like the stigma of like being a rapper. But I still like I was always interested in the arts, and like I said, I was always writing, and so I got connected with that same company that he was working with, and I was just working the door. And I started realizing at these poetry shows, I started running into some of the same people that were on like Def Poetry Jam and people who were really making a living traveling, doing spoken word. And so that was the first introduction. And then like I started slowly performing, getting out there, but not really putting myself out there. But once I just got into it more and more, you know, you start getting connected with this artist and they got this show going on. And then you see and then you just experience more of the community once you see like how prison it is. Because I mean, I think spoken word is for the most part, I think it's an underground thing in a lot of places, not so much mainstream as some of the other artists for whatever reason. um but yeah, but once I got connected, I started seeing how connected the poetry scene was like on an underground level, and then it's just continued to grow from there. And especially like after the pandemic, I feel like that gave new poets, younger poets, a chance to kind of come into the scene because a lot of people have been running shows for a while and stuff like that. But after the pandemic, it was like everything was wiped fresh, and then a lot of new shows started popping up, and poetry definitely became more prevalent in the city. So yeah, so it's a pretty big scene and ever growing.
Absolutely. No, it's for you, what's became kind of one of the, obviously when you said you were working security, right?
No, I was just working the door like taking
Okay.
money.
Okay,
Yeah.
word. How is that kind of to kind of go from there? You're meeting these people that you're seeing on TV. I mean, what is that kind of, how does that kind of trajectory, what does that feel like when you kind of look back on that? Like, yo, I kind of just started literally from the bottom. I mean, to now where you are now.
Yeah, and I didn't think about it at the time, because I was very scared to get on stage at that time. I wasn't confident in who I was, first of all, let alone in my work. And so that really gave me the opportunity to just watch, because I did that for like a year. That gave me the opportunity to just watch for a year and observe poets doing it at a high level,
Yeah.
seeing their movement, seeing the content they were talking about, and just seeing how they presented themselves. Like I said, and there's nothing I thought about at the time, but looking back on it, that just gave me an opportunity just to watch and learn. And looking back on it, I think that was big for me because it not only helped give me the confidence to get on the stage, but helped me kind of mold my own style because everybody was so different. So yeah, it gave me the opportunity to observe before I just jumped into it and got on stage myself.
Absolutely, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about, I mean, what is I think I feel like, I would tell people when I used to live in New York, I performed in New York poetry, and there's nothing like a New York crowd like in Harlem or Brooklyn. Tell us, what is an ATL crowd like for a spoken word poetry night?
Um, so it was when I first started, I must say it was a little bit different. There was a famous place that everybody came to called Apache, which Apache still exists, but it was at a different location. And there it was like the first time I walked in there, I didn't feel like I didn't feel like I was good enough to get on stage.
Mm,
I felt like even just to ask to be even on an open mic night, I feel like I needed to be better before I even wanted to get on stage. But now these days, I feel like it's more welcoming. It's more like, oh, you wrote that last night and haven't practiced it, still kudos for getting on stage. Um, yeah, it's more welcoming. It's kind of more nice. Back then there was like one of the first shows that I did was like a competition. It was like Apollo style. And if you weren't good, you were getting booed. But now there's not too many of those shows around here. Like I said, it's very welcoming and very friendly, which is a good thing. But at the same time, I don't know if there's a lot of shows that make you feel like I felt when I walked in Apache back then the first time. Like, man, I really need to, get my stuff up. People are more like, oh, I'll get on stage and try it out, and you read from your phone. Everybody's like, oh, that's cute. Thanks for trying. And
Yeah.
so I feel like it's very nice and very welcoming.
Oh, that's what's up. That's what's up, definitely. So I want to talk about you have an interesting name for your collection of poetry. This is your debut collection, correct? Poetry for the Hopefully.
Yes, yes, that is my debut collection.
Tell us that poetry for the hopefully. That's a very interesting name. Poetry for the hopefully. It rhymes, but it's also poetry. Is it poetry for people that are hoping? What tell us a little bit about that title.
Everything that I was writing at the time had a hopeful undertone to it, even if I was talking about the inequities going on in the country, even if I was talking about police brutality, even if I was talking about relationships that went bad, anything. I think everything that I was writing at the time had like still had like a hopeful undertone to it. Still like imagining a better way type of deal. And so I felt like that was fitting. And then at that time I was big into rhymes. So I just felt like it was something catchy, and I feel like it really embodied what I was trying to do with the book.
Absolutely. What exactly? So tell us, where does your inspiration for writing come from then? And why are you no longer hopeful?
Well, first, I think I'm definitely still hopeful. I believe I believe in people to a certain extent. Um, but I'm also much more of an observer now. And I have kind of different tools in my toolbox now, just writing more. So I can write from a place of hopefulness now, but I can also write from an observer standpoint to where I don't have I don't have necessarily like feelings and like, oh, I really want the human race to succeed. Sometimes I can just sit back and I'm just watching it all fall down and I'm like, this is going on. And I don't necessarily have a stake in it, if that makes sense. And so I just feel like I can write from different viewpoints. But as far as where my inspiration comes from, it comes from everything I write is rooted in some type of reality. Now I do like to, so it comes from my life, whether that's conversations with a friend, whether that's something I read, whether it's another form of art that might have sparked an idea. Um, being a husband, being a father, being a friend, being a son, being a brother. Um, yeah, I can find inspiration in all of those things. It's just kind of whatever speaks to me at the time. And I'm always looking for it. I'm always looking for something that inspires me. I'm always looking for something that speaks to me. And I'm always trying to see how whatever that is, how it intersects with my point of view and present it. So everything I write is rooted in reality, but at the same time, I also try not to stay too much in reality and bring that artist point of view, which is imagining a different world than what may be reality.
Yeah. I found what you said interesting. You said it's like now you can almost you feel like almost stoic in a sense to like the things happening around you. You can sit back and kind of just watch it. I wonder, I feel because I feel similar as I've gotten a little older. Like I feel almost like it's like almost you have to detach yourself from like a lot of
Yeah.
different things to be able to kind of survive through some things. I wonder if that's a positive or negative or a healthy coping mechanism, but I don't know. I know as a writer, it helps a lot as a writer because you can kind of go really in depth, put yourself in other people's shoes and positions. So it's interesting. It's interesting that you feel very
Yeah,
connected to that too.
and so I try not to, at least for myself, I try not to view it as necessarily like I try to view an event. I don't want to say an event, but just like whatever I'm writing about at the time, maybe like whatever I observe, not necessarily good or bad, but this is what's happening, and just try to write from that standpoint. And it just brings a different angle. But sometimes I do feel like we're doomed. There's no there's no hope,
Yeah.
and it's just crashing down, and that's just the way it is. And but you go through different feelings as not only a writer, a poet, but just as a person. Sometimes you feel good about it, feel optimistic about life. Sometimes it's like, what? I don't know how I'm gonna make it through the day. And it's just part of the human experience, but I try to bring all of that to the page.
Absolutely, that's what's up. For you, I'm curious then too, for poetry for the hopefully, after that came out, where in terms of your collections, are you working on any new collections or have you have any since then?
Yes, absolutely. I'm working on my next book, which should be, actually, let me rephrase that. I'm done writing the next book, but it's in its production phase right now. I'm hoping to get it out first half of the year, hopefully this year. But it's more essays, just a collection of essays I've written over the last couple of years that kind of speak to what's been going on, not only in my life, but what I've observed and how a lot of the situations that happen reflect with my life and kind of how I see it. And so just to spread my wings as a writer. I can write a poem. I know that, but I also want to write some different stuff just to show people that I got, different stuff in my bag, as the kids say.
As the kids say, there we go. Now, do tell me, you also have a monthly show. It's called Soul Therapy. I'm so curious about that. That sounds like Atlantis would seem like the perfect place to have a show called Soul Therapy. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, absolutely. So, as I mentioned before, I wanted to put on, more of a showcase rather than because I do have a poetry open mic that I do at Urban Grind that's kind of for everybody, but I want to create something that's kind of more like on a higher level to showcase some of the premier talent in the area. So, Soul Therapy Poetry Show is basically about poets, spoken word artists, storytellers coming through to tell their story. And I always feel like poetry is therapy for the writer as we write and get these thoughts out. That's therapy for us. But at the same time, it's also therapy for the listener because they are able to get inspired by something that they can relate to. So it's a give and take experience where hopefully we're both getting something out of it. So yeah, so I really just wanted to showcase poets doing this at a high level. So yeah, so if you're watching this, you can catch the whole first season on YouTube right now, and we'll be dropping the second season soon.
Tell us, how does Soul Therapy, like what's the kind of format of that show? It's like so y'all videotape it? Is it open mic style? What does it look like?
Yeah, so I curate, I curate the list. I get a list of poets who I think would be good. Reach out to a few. So I get a list, and then I always have one or two headliners. So they'll come through, do 20 or 30 minutes, and then I'll have four or five other poets on the lineup doing about 10 minutes. And yeah, the whole point of it is to tell their story, tell a story through spoken word, through poetry, and yeah, really just like I said, just showcase poets doing it at a high level.
Nice. Wow. Amazing, amazing. For you, I mean, how's that been received so far, like your community? I mean, how have people really responded to soul therapy?
Pretty good. We've got a good turnout. The show's been growing. This is going on our third year.
Wow.
After the first year, I switched locations, and I was really nervous about how the show was going to continue after that. But I've gotten an even better response the second and third year coming up. I've had some of the best poets in the nation, I'll say, the likes of people like Georgia Me, who was on Broadway with HBO Def Poetry Jam. And coming up, we got people like Brandon Leake, who won America's Got Talent. He'll be through this summer. So we've had some pretty premier talent come through, and we got some more coming through in the future. So I'm super excited about it, and I'm super excited to grow the online audience as well.
Absolutely. That sounds super duper dope. Now, you know what? Moving on from that amazingness, let's also talk about your podcast. So you also have a poetry podcast called the Poet's Perspective Podcast. Tell us a little bit.
Yes.
When did you start that, and what is the format of that other avenue for poetry?
Yeah, so that actually started during the pandemic. I was hosting a poetry open mic. Well, I had just started hosting at Urban Grind. I did one show there, and then everything in the city got shut down. And so at the time, they had just created an online store to where people could buy coffee online. And so they wanted to grow their online presence. And one of the ways we did that was through having a poetry open mic every Thursday that I was hosting. And just getting more into that space, especially while we had everybody's attention at home, I thought it would be a good idea to give poets a platform to share their stories in a long form. Like I don't feel like even what we're doing right now, I don't feel like there's a lot of platforms for poets to really just talk and you to get to know the poets beyond their work, beyond the poetry. So I wanted to showcase that. I was meeting poets from all over the world who had interesting stories, and I was interested in them. I love talking to people already, and so that's just something I wanted to start up, and so we got about 25 episodes up now. That was season one, and we're gearing up for season two right now. So I'm super excited to keep it going.
Absolutely. What has been the kind of for you, what's been sort of the struggles of, running your own podcast show? Because usually, as poets, it's like you write for a living. It's the interview that's a whole nother world. I know for me, like I've had that struggle with like, because usually it's kind of funny, like people they'll be poets, they'll be spoken word artists, they profess their whole lives on stage, like really minute personal details. But to get them to open up in an interview, that's a whole different story.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
that's
definitely
true.
for you. What have you seen kind of as like the difference between writing for the page and stage versus like an interview with a poet?
Well, I'm lucky that most most of the poets that I've had on, like I said, we got about 25 episodes up. Most of the poets that I've had on, I've had some type of rapport with, whether we met each other during the pandemic when everybody was kind of doing the online thing. So I haven't necessarily like seen them in person per se, but we've had an interaction. So we've built some type of rapport so the conversation could kind of flow. It was a little bit harder for me when I didn't know the poet.
Yeah,
Like you said, just getting them to open up and just trying to get something interesting. I mean, you want a good conversation, but you also want like, something interesting, whether it be introspective or whatever they got going on. But the conversation itself is like, to be honest, is like the easy part for me. Um, the hardest part about the podcast for me is the consistency, making sure you get out those episodes on a weekly, whatever, monthly, whatever basis,
yeah, yeah,
you're putting out episodes and really like the technical aspect, because for the most part is me doing everything.
yeah.
And so yeah, so the conversation is kind of cool for me. I'm good on that. It's just the technical part and making sure I'm consistent with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, the consistency definitely is like the make or break. No, I completely agree with you. I mean, it's a lot of things jumbled into one, but okay, cool. How can folks listen to the Post Perspective podcast?
Post Perspective Podcast, you can find it streaming on all platforms. You can find all our episodes. I got videos on YouTube, but for this next season, we're going straight audio, and we're gonna do it like that. I got a pretty good amount of video content out there, and I got more coming. But for the podcast, we're gonna keep it at audio and give people that audio experience.
For sure, for sure. Fair enough, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's up. That's what's up. It's nice to hear. I mean, it's like I remember someone had once told me just finding different avenues for poetry. Like you said, there aren't a lot of spaces where poets can literally like something like this, where it's just sitting down, having actual just conversations outside of the writing, getting to know people on that deeper, multifaceted, multifolded level. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
Man,
and then in this world, like I see other artists, like I see like rappers and singers, or even authors, like when they're getting ready to put a book out, when they're getting ready to put an album out, they have like they have like a network of these podcasts they can go to. They're gonna hit this podcast, they're gonna hit this podcast to promote their stuff.
yeah,
And I want to be a part of that, a part of creating that network for poets, for spoken word artists. When we got something going on to promote, you can be like, okay, do this podcast, this podcast, this podcast, and it's gonna get you the sales, it's gonna get you the exposure. I want to be a part of that.
yeah.
So yeah, that's a big motivation for it as well.
That's a really good way to put it because no, you're completely correct. It's like when you think of like music or you think of movies, there's definitely a list of shows people do PR and promo for, and it's like, why not the same for people that write poetry? Why not the same for people that do performances of spoken word? Why is there no kind of contact list? So no, I like that a lot. That's very, very true. And that those types of things help take it from underground to more, celebrated by even more people around the world. So no, I appreciate that. That's what's up.
Exactly, and that's really one of my whole goals for spoken word, for poetry, is to take it to that level. I know, a lot of people tell me like it's underground for a reason, and I get that, but there's also a lot of other poets who have that mainstream appeal, and I want to be part of that. I want to be a part of, somebody that's really elevating it, getting it to that mainstream level, because what we talk about, how we present our stories, I feel like they need to be heard. I feel like they need to be heard, especially in these times that we in today. I mean, things are always crazy, but yeah, people need to be inspired. We get so much doom and gloom. I feel
Yeah.
like, it's nothing like getting some real stuff from poetry, and that's the thing. You really don't know what you're gonna get. You gonna get somebody to make you laugh, make you cry, make you think back to your childhood, inspire you. You don't know what you're gonna get from poetry, from spoken word, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You don't know what you're gonna get, but you're gonna get some.
But you're gonna get something, but you're gonna feel. You don't know what
Yeah,
that feeling's gonna be, but you're gonna feel.
absolutely. Facts, facts. No, I love that a lot. Man, it's been so great as we've been talking so far. I'm curious for you. When did you what sparked you for you to know and realize I'm a writer, I'm a poet? When was that moment for you? Or was it a moment or was it a series of moments?
It was definitely a series of moments, but there's one moment that sticks out to me. I was kind of performing. I was in and out of it. I was growing as a performer on stage and as a writer, but I hadn't committed myself like this is what I want to do, spoken word. But I was at my parents' house one day, and my mom was cleaning out my room. Everybody, all the kids moved out or whatever. So she's like, "Yo, here's your shit." Oh, can we cuss on here? I don't even
Yeah,
know.
you can.
Okay, all right. She was like, "Here's your shit. I don't know what you want to do with it, but whatever." So, it was like all this stuff she had kept from like all the years of school or whatever. And then I seen this book of poetry that I turned in maybe like in middle school, and it was like with computer paper, typed up on a Word document, hole punched on the side with shoestrings to bind it together. And I looked, and I turned it in like sixth grade or something, and I started reading through the poems, and and I had to Google the poems because I'm like, man, there's no way I wrote this in sixth grade. It's pretty good. So I Googled the poems just to make sure that I had really written them, and I didn't bite it from nobody. So so I did that, and I realized that I'm pretty sure I wrote this. And at that moment, it was like, okay, I've been doing this. I've been writing. The seed was planted a long time ago. Now I think it's time to move forward, take it serious, and see where it can take me. So that was a moment that stands out.
Whoa, whoa, wow! No, that's that's great. I find that it's crazy. It's like you didn't even know you were that good. You actually Google checked the poems to see if you bit off anybody. That's pretty crazy. That's insane.
Yeah, yeah, and I never impress myself. I'm my toughest critic. I hate everything I do. Everything can be better always, no matter how good I do. And so for me to have that moment, have that thought to myself, that was a special moment personally for me.
Absolutely facts. No, it's like you're better than you actually think you are. No, that's amazing. But no, to know that at such a young age too. I mean, that's probably, would you say that definitely course corrected you in some ways where you were just like, I mean, but then for you, what would you say was the exact age then where it was just it clicked for you then? Like, where was that kind of exact moment then where you were at in your life where you're like, I can actually pursue this?
Mm, what age? That was, I'm gonna say, there's been a couple times that I had to recommit myself, or not recommit, but commit on a different level. So the first time I'll say, I was the first time I performed, I was 24, and I got on stage and forgot everything, and it went terrible. And so it took me about a year and a half, almost 2 years to get on stage after that.
Okay.
And so I did that. So around like 27, I'm like, okay, this is what I really want to do. And so I was going, and then again, about when I was 30, I was like, okay, I said I want to do this, but I'm not hitting it as hard as I need to. I'm good, but I'm not great. And so at 30, that's when like I started making sure to hit every open mic I could, trying to perform 4 or 5, 6 times a week as much as I could. And then at that time, there was a show going on almost every day in Atlanta. So, if you wanted to perform every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you could. So I wanted to make sure like I got up as much as I can. And I did that. I did that up until the pandemic, up until everything was shut down. And that was probably like my greatest growth that people recognized, and they started booking me for shows and things like that. And so like I said, I know I gave you like a couple of different ages, but I'm gonna say 30 is when it really kicked in.
Word. I find it so interesting because it's one of those things too, like it's, and you tell me, do you think how much of that do you think to be in a place like Atlanta where you could literally do 5 shows I mean 5 shows a week. I'm sure some people even you can do 5 shows a night if you want to. That's how just
Yeah.
popping that scene is for spoken word poetry. How important do you think that is to like a poet's career though, to be in that environment where it's actually celebrated to where you can do actual shows and it's not a struggle for you to reach out into that net.
I think I think it's very important,
Yeah.
but at the same time, even if you're in a place where it's not celebrated, because like I said, that was before the pandemic, so it's kind of a different time now. Different shows going on, and I'm in a different place in my journey to where I'm more so looking to create opportunities. So even if you're not in a place where spoken word is celebrated, which could be important. I mean, it was big for me. I just happened to be in Atlanta, so that was my journey. But I would like to think that even if I wasn't here and I was somewhere else, then I would go maybe like the poetry is not a scene, but in most places there's at least like music open mic. So maybe you have to hit a music open mic and do your thing. Maybe you have to hit a comedy open mic and do your thing. And I mean that's even something that I've done down here is, as you hit these different shows, you can find yourself, okay, I know my stuff's hitting here, I know it's hitting here, and I can keep working this circuit. But in order to grow and see, what my art really is, I got to take it to these other venues. So,
Yeah. Hmm.
even within that, like I've had to hit like places that not where poetry is not really celebrated. They're not looking for poets. Like a comedy open mic is not looking for poets. They're looking for people to make them laugh. But if I can go here and bring my art here and win over this audience, then I'm onto something. Same thing like a music open mic. Like, sometimes, especially in music, because the audience just wanna it's easy for them to like sit back and tune out whatever's going on and just kind of vibe. But now I'm getting up there and I'm stopping the band. Y'all chill for a minute. Let me give y'all these. Let me give y'all these poems. Now, I'm making them think. They got to kind of get out of that trance, and now they got to stop and listen. But if I can win over that audience, I know I'm onto something. So I say that to say, like, I think it's important to be in a place where it's celebrated, but even if it's not, I feel like you got to find a way to create an opportunity.
Facts. No, I like that a lot. It's a sometimes, again, someone told me this quote back in the day. Sometimes opportunities will be presented to you and given to you. Other times you're gonna have to create your own opportunities. And that's so true. It's like, especially for, the spoken word and poetry game, you really do have to create spaces for yourself and then invite others to your table. So no,
Absolutely.
that's a beautiful way to put it. You know what? I do have a couple, just one more final question for you. We ask everyone on the Poet Speaks podcast. So please do tell me, why do you need to get your words out?
Why do I need to get my words out? I need to get my words out because first off, it's an outlet for me. That's where my writing starts. It starts with what's important to me, what am I feeling, what am I going through. So even if I wrote something that I never performed or no one ever read, it's important to get that out for me. But it's important to share it with audiences because I believe that I have a unique perspective that can inspire people, motivate people, and entertain people. So I feel like I can, within everything going on, within all this entertainment that we have, I feel like it's important to throw my hat in the ring and show what I can add to any artistic culture or just not even just culture period. I feel like I have something to contribute to culture that people can get, whether it's inspiring them, whether it's motivating them to be just their best self, or maybe they're just looking to be entertained. I feel like I can provide that.
Absolutely beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Justin. You know what? As we're wrapping up, I want to know, for the folks out there, what is 2023 looking like for you and beyond in terms of your writing, your all the other endeavors that you're doing, and again, where can folks find all of your amazing work and keep up to date with you? Instagram, all that good stuff.
Yes, yes. So to find everything you can go to the website www.iamjustinpatton.com, Instagram at I am Justin Patton, Facebook I am Justin Patton, YouTube you can just search Justin Patton Poetry. All my stuff will come up. 2023 focused on growing the show, Soul Therapy Poetry Show. I have an open mic that I do at Urban Grind every first Thursday. So I'm looking to keep that going. Urban Grind is one of the premier open mics in Atlanta, one of the longest running open mics in Atlanta. And they shut down for like a couple years throughout the pandemic. Took them a while to get back. So we're working to build up that audience, but it's definitely growing. So definitely working with them to see what we can do. I have a book coming out later this year. I don't have a definite date for it, but we're looking at April, May right now. And let's see what else. What else? Poets Perspective Podcast Season 2 will be underway this year. What else? What else? What else? What else? Um, you'll be able to find all the episodes of Soul Therapy Poetry Show on YouTube later this year. And yeah, so just continuing to to grow all my endeavors, grow as an artist, grow in my writing. And that's one of the things I really want to write every day, at least for a little bit, even if it's like 15, 20 minutes. I want to get my pen game even stronger. So that's a big focus as well, because, that's kind of where all this starts, a podcast, a book, performing, whatever. All that starts with me sitting down and putting pen to paper and writing. So I never want to neglect that, and I want to get stronger in that. But yeah, 2023 is looking like growth and focus, and just trying to inspire as many people as possible.
That's what's up. That's a beautiful, beautiful, harmonious place to be. And we appreciate you for sharing that on the podcast today. Justin, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Amanda, thank you for having me. This is great. I want to tell everybody about it. If you need more guests, I know a lot of poets. I want to send them your way. I want this thing to be huge. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We really do appreciate it. And everyone, go ahead, check out Justin. All of his links will be down below in the description box. No matter what platform you're listening to, it'll be in the description box down below. So big thanks to Justin for being on the show today. Everyone, this is the Poet Speaks podcast, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye, everyone.
Peace out.